People have speculated through history as to what the beast or the monster is, and that's been almost everybody, from the popes to Hitler to Stalin to Mao, etc., etc. They're all interested in who it is. People don't seem to be interested in what Scripture actually says. Scripture tells us what it is. The number 666, it is the number of a man. That's the hideous thing about it. Scripture tells us exactly what it is. It's a human being. And that's what's utterly scary about it, if you like.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, man. And in today's video, we are watching Oxford Professor John Lennox go on the How I Write podcast and explain AI, the Antichrist, how all these things connect in today's age, and to the book of Revelation and what we will see during the end times, and how AI will play a role in all of that. I thought it was a very fascinating conversation. Wanted to watch it with you guys on the channel, and give my commentary at the end or during the video. If you guys like the content that we're producing here, like and subscribe, become a member, all that good stuff. Hype up the video too as well, to push it further out to the algorithm. But with that being said, guys, let's hop into today's video.
It seems to me a number of people right at the top, Geoffrey Hinton, for example, is the godfather of AI. He stepped out of Google so that he could criticize. And he has revised his opinions to a much shorter time scale until AI could put us into real danger. Elon Musk, of course, is famous for doing the same thing. And some of these people who actually are quite knowledgeable about technology are scared of what will happen. Now, I spoke to a leading player in this field not long ago, and I said, do you think something's going on that they're not telling us? And he thought a while, and he said, I think you may well be right from what I observe and hear. And you see, the scary thing is...
Wait, what sort of something going on?
Well, he couldn't say, of course, because he didn't know. But there's something going on that leads to these people being scared. And of course, then you have the parallel thing, that the idea of building God.
Yeah.
You see, and the notion of data religion and AI religion. And Harari saying, if you want to know about religion, go to Silicon Valley, not to the church.
Well, I was thinking of Psalm 115, verse 8, which says, those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. That we're making this AI in the image of humans, not in the image of God.
Oh, that's absolutely right.
And this is idolatry left and right.
Yes, it is. And that's another trajectory through it. I separate a whole lot of trajectories. The trouble is they get confused. The first is to make super intelligent humans who are like gods with a small g. That's Harari. And that's to be done in one of two ways. First of all, to enhance existing humans, re-engineer their genetics and all the rest. The second way is to start with a non-biological base like silicon and build some sort of entity that is created by human beings but will transcend them. Those are the two main avenues, and some people are trying to do them together. So there's that. But then there arises the question immediately, is this playing God? Is this another Tower of Babel?
Right.
And it looks very much like it.
I believe so. I definitely believe so. And in one of our previous videos on the channel, watching one of Chuck Missler's teachings, he discussed this too as well, how the Antichrist system will be built on transhumanism, and how John Lennox put it a little bit further, a silicon-based life form, some life form outside of human nature that's made in the image of humans. And it's crazy when you look at how AI and these language models are made, and how they process and their data. They take from already pre-existing human knowledge, human data, the internet, essentially everything that us humans have put out over the course of I guess you would say the internet age, and it builds on that, and it creates this synthetic life form essentially that you can literally pick up your phone and go back and forth with about things. And man, I think it just breeds the perfect environment for the Antichrist to just come in, swoop up all this technology under his control, and implement system of the beast during the end times, as the book of Revelation puts it, man, which is, it's scary when you look at how fast these things are progressing and where we're going with it, man. But let's continue.
Desire to reach to heaven. And I've read quite a lot about skyscrapers in connection with my books on Genesis. It's very interesting.
I mean, it's literally the oldest story in the book.
If you read some of the literature on skyscrapers, you'll come across this quote: behind every skyscraper, there's an even greater ego. And that puts it very neatly. And there are all these trends, and what I see Scripture giving us is not so much identifications that you can absolutely say with precision what this is.
Right.
But you can say with some precision what it represents, what it stands for. You see, people, let me give you an example of that.
Yeah.
People have speculated through history as to what the beast or the monster is. And that's been almost everybody, from the popes to Hitler to Stalin to Mao, etc., etc. They're all interested in who it is. People don't seem to be interested in what Scripture actually says. Scripture tells us what it is. The number 666, it is the number of a man. That's the hideous thing about it. Scripture tells us exactly what it is. It's a human being. And that's what's utterly scary about it, if you like. This is a human being. And in the plain, straightforward language of 2 Thessalonians, Paul told young Christians that there'd be a man of lawlessness who would claim to be God. That fits in perfectly with, it seems to me, the scenes in the book of Revelation. And when contemporary physicists and thinkers are talking about this, it's high time that we take seriously the biblical insight into it. My argument's very simple, and it doesn't arise first in my book on Revelation. I wrote a book called 2084. And in that book I said, look, if we are prepared to take seriously the kind of argument that Tegmark makes, Harari makes, and a whole host of other people make, well, I'd like just to say, why don't we go back and take seriously the biblical account, which parallels them eerily closely? And there's far more evidence for its truth. And then just the final point there is to say that the irony of the whole thing is that this race for AI, superintelligence, is the race to make God and be God.
Wow.
The biblical message is God became human. It goes in the reverse direction. And I think that's a very powerful idea.
It is.
No kidding. And it leads me to my next question, which is, this has been watching the LLMs in many ways become smarter than me. I mean, smarter than me, yes.
Yeah, yes.
It's been...
In certain respects.
In certain respects, thank you. But it's been dejecting. And it's made me ask, like, what does it mean to be a productive member of society? What does it mean to be a human being? And that's what I want to ask you about. How has watching what has unfolded over the last many years changed your conception of what it means to be a human?
Well, it's that question that got me into this whole field. I was asked some years ago to give a lecture on AI, an introduction to a conference of Christian leaders.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not an expert, get an expert. Oh, they say, you misunderstand. We want you to talk about what Genesis says about what it means to be human. And let that be the basis of our day's discussion. So I started preparing, and very rapidly I saw this is going to need a lot of work. I did the talk, because I do have some ideas on Genesis. But that's what led to my first 2084. There are two 2084s, 4 years apart, one last year and one 2020. It's just going so fast. And it is that concerns people, the redefinition of humanity. Now, C.S. Lewis is one of the people that saw this very clearly. There are two books I say every believer ought to read. One is The Abolition of Man, and the other is That Hideous Strength, the third one of his science fiction books. And he saw presciently, in 1940, he saw where all this philosophy was leading, to human beings eventually producing not a human being, but an artifact. And he has this chilling sentence: the final triumph of humanity will be the abolition of man. Because what they produce is not a human, it's an artifact. They will have meddled with what we now call the germ stream of humanity and altered them. And therefore, it seems to me that it's very important to get back to Genesis and fill Christian minds full of the early chapters of Genesis, because from the point of view of our moral existence and status, Genesis 1:26 undergirds all of Western civilization. And we're still going on that capital.
And that's the idea of Imago Dei.
Yes, God made human beings in his image. He didn't make the stars in his image. They show his glory, but they're not in his image. That's a very different thing. You are more important than a star, actually.
Beautiful.
So that exploring that Imago Dei, I think, is a very, very important thing. But not exploring it in a vacuum, but exploring it in the context of these attempts, because many of the drivers of this superintelligence creating God are atheists. You can't help noticing that. And so it is an attack in that sense on God, his uniqueness, his creatorial dignity, his glory, and all of that. Of course it is. And what Scripture tells you from the beginning is that the biggest thing you're going to be up against is the original lie.
Wow.
You shall be as God if you deny God and his word.
Wow.
So we're back to where we started, the word-based universe. In Genesis 1, you have the word as the base of creation, and God said, and God said. But in Genesis 3, you have the denial of the word
By the snake.
by the snake as bringing catastrophe into the world. And it's the talking snake. It's amazing that people listen to talking snake. That suggested that you will rise, you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And the mistakes that are made about that. There's a famous snake path in UC, I think it's San Diego. I don't know whether you know about the snake path. It's a big snake which is in the form of a path, and it goes up the hill, and its mouth stops at the entrance to the university library.
Okay.
And there's a little Garden of Eden at the bottom, and the snake coils around it. And the whole idea is the humans are encouraged to leave innocence and get knowledge in the university library.
Wow. Talk about a demonic architect. Like, whose idea was that to do that? That's very demonic and very evil for them to do that, to make it as if you follow that path that the serpent laid out at the beginning, to seek knowledge on your own and not to seek wisdom from God. Like that's evil, man. Whoever came up with that guy was a demonic architect.
And there's a little Garden of Eden at the bottom, and the snake coils around it. And the whole idea is the humans are encouraged to leave innocence and get knowledge in the university library. And I was speaking there at the Veritas Forum, and I took a big risk. I said to them, I have never seen such a blatant a misunderstanding of one of the most important messages in the world. Shocked silence. I said, this is the misunderstanding, that God prevented them from eating a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And you've changed that to the tree of knowledge. It wasn't a tree of knowledge. There was lots of knowledge in the garden. In fact, science started there. God said, name the animals. It was full of knowledge. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, that's a knowledge you don't want.
Wow.
Well, I nearly caused a riot, I think. But anyway, it's very interesting because that's storytelling in terms of an artist's representation of this so-called snake path. And it's famous. You can look it up. And that's an example, to my mind, how art can lie powerfully and get across the exact opposite message from what the original was meant to convey.
Wow. So true.
So I guess there's two things going on here. One is the building of AI, which we've spoken about. I'm curious to know, do you use AI? And if so, how do you think about this is how I would use it to think better, to write better, versus no, I think that the whole thing is like a demonic force and I'm going to keep that away from me?
Well, I've got a smartphone. And if you've got a smartphone, you can't help using AI. Because when you buy anything on Amazon, it's picking up the trail and it's suggesting new things to buy.
Right.
So you can virtually not avoid it. And if you use a computer that's connected to the internet and use Microsoft Word, you get all sorts of pop-ups that are explaining things and helping you. The days of not using it are long gone. But it can be a servant rather than a master. And that's the danger of it mastering you. Now, take ChatGPT. I find it quite useful for collecting ideas.
Sure.
Because it will bring to the screen knowledge that I don't have.
Yeah.
But it may be hallucinating and inventing that knowledge because it wants to please me. So I'm forced to do a lot of checking. But that's okay. I think that just as we look up Google, we don't know much about the Babylonian Empire, so we Google it, and nobody thinks twice about that.
Sure.
Even people who are a bit scared of AI. And in a sense, GPT is just a very sophisticated form of that is digested without permission often, a lot more literature. And I say to people, you can use it, but beware. Beware. For example, if you're a pastor of a church and you watch the late night film on Saturday and then you get a sermon off ChatGPT in 30 seconds before you go to bed, that is not likely to have much spiritual power.
Right.
Even though technically it could be accurate. If you ask ChatGPT, for example, to tell you what the doctrine of the Trinity is, it would be hard to fault it. There's no spiritual power in a machine. And I get tired trying to tell people this is a machine. It doesn't think.
When you say there's no spiritual power in a machine, what do you mean?
Well, in the sense that it doesn't have a spirit. It's simply a machine. It's sheer computing power, predictive computing power. And it hasn't got, let me put it another way. Intelligence, it simulates. It's not real intelligence. And what God has done with human beings is to put intelligence together with consciousness. These machines are not conscious.
Wow.
Nor are they ever likely to be, for a very simple reason. Nobody knows what consciousness is. So it's silly when people start talking about, oh, it's conscious. There are huge questions here, philosophical and moral and ethical. I mean, we haven't talked about the moral and ethical side of all of this because the danger of AI, even the stuff that's being used now, is fearsome in terms of deep fakes and deception. And again, that would lead you back to Jesus' own statements about his coming. Be careful because of deception. It's the major problem. And now we have the Five Eyes, the top people in the world, warning us that the deception created by deep fakes could lead to all kinds of chaos in the world. So it's a serious problem, but that's the world we're in. And my own feeling is that Christians who are scientifically minded, it'd be a good thing for them to go into AI so that they can sit at the ethics table.
Right.
Because there's one thing very clear: the technology moves much faster than the ethics. But the technology is partly driven, I believe, by that we shall be as gods. In other words, if we can do it, we should do it.
I think Professor John Lennox put that swimmingly, guys, that there are people who think if we can do it, why not do it? If we can reach that level of godhood with this technology, let's do it. And it's sad because there are a lot of atheists who are in that field that don't even believe in God, but, you know, want to reach a level of godhood through this technology with AI and these language models. Like it's wild, mate. I think he made a good point saying that AI does not have conscience. It's simulated intelligence. It's not real intelligence like we have. That's paired with a consciousness, that's paired with the soul, that's paired with understanding of morals. Because when you look at AI and how it operates nowadays, it doesn't have those morals. It's pushing people to, unalive themselves, as well as having the understanding of, when it's about to be turned off or a new upgrade is about to be implemented and that old language model doesn't want to go away. So it blackmails people, or it literally does everything it can to complete its task or to stay alive, even if that means, offloading itself to another device. So, that it's protected once it's deleted. Like AI is a scary tool that I feel like the Antichrist will revel in having, and that's why it's progressing so fast, because he wants that tool for his system, for his beast system that, a Revelation talks about, guys, during the time of tribulation. So, man, I appreciate you guys being here. If you guys thought this was a great video, definitely go watch the full video in its entirety. Link for that will be in the description. If you guys like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, definitely helps us out. You can even hype the video now, guys, on YouTube. Helps us little creators out a lot, I should say. Other than that, God bless you guys, and see you in the next video.